What is silence? Whew. Well, the best way to describe it to you is to give you a moment of silence, which would mean I would say nothing. And I want to explain to you when I first learned about silence. And that might be something you may never experience in this way, which is why you have to learn to incorporate silence into your life in another way. So the first time I learned about silence was when I was in South Africa and I was doing field work for my master's degree, and I was following the vervet monkeys. And sometimes I would follow them for 10 hours. Sometimes even 12, but mostly less than that. And the reason why it was really hard for me to follow them so long was because I was alone and there was nobody to talk to. And so I always felt drawn to go back to camp where other students were living. And so I often stopped my fieldwork much earlier than I could have, simply because I had trouble resisting the urge to speak. And I remember that the first time I spent, let's say maybe 10 or 12 hours, I don't quite remember, with the vervets in the bush, it was really weird. And when I came back, I felt like, I wouldn't be able to talk anymore. And in a way, it did feel liberating, but also very unsettling. Because when there's silence, you have nothing to cling to but yourself. So silence is a practice that you can incorporate into your life, and that I would advise anyone to at least try a couple of times, which means taking a day where you say, I don't speak today. I remain silent. That also includes writing text messages and all kinds of things. So it's like a detox from talking, but also from writing, a detox from the internet, a detox from sharing what you think you need to share. Because if there's something you need to say, then say it to yourself by listening. Listen to what you want to say to yourself inside of yourself. Because often people, they talk and they talk and they talk, and the only reason that they talk is because they feel bad, right? They have a feeling, and that feeling makes them feel anxious, and this anxiety makes them run around and try to talk to all kinds of people. And then every time you feel like, oh, there's something weird inside of me, you call someone or you go outside so that you can say hello to people, or you write a text to someone and hope that they will respond. And at a certain point, I wanted to be free of all of that. I wanted to be free of this feeling, this desire to talk. And so I started to incorporate silence. And sure, when you're out in the bush following vervet monkeys, who are basically silent most of the time, for them silence is something that is embedded into their nature. So you can say it's a gift to speak, but no word can ever truly express to you what I feel. I can try to draw an image, and I can try to write something, but that will never truly tell you how you feel. And so silence is also a way to feel what you feel. And when you feel miserable today and you stay silent, well, then work with that feeling. Figure out what you need today in silence. Go for a walk, say nothing. Don't greet anyone, stay silent. And that's also a practice that strengthens your resolve, your mind, your stability. Because now you have only yourself to lean onto. You have to hold yourself now. No more words. And this is also something that I got from Gandhi, who, I was reading the autobiography of a yogi. And somewhere towards the end, Yogananda meets with Gandhi, and he meets him on a day where he practices silence. And he had 1 day per week, where he said nothing. And he also had 1 day per week where he ate nothing. And this is incredibly difficult, not only because it is difficult for yourself, but also because other people will find it even more unsettling. So what I realized when I was trying to be silent while living with other people, and I had days where I wanted to say nothing, they would come and talk to me, and I would say nothing. And they would feel like really bad about it. And they would start getting anxious, and they would start saying, did I do something wrong? Is something wrong? But right, it wasn't so much about me that they felt anxious about. They felt anxious about themselves, because suddenly, when I said nothing, they were confronted with all those feelings of I'm not enough, I'm bad, I'm being punished. And I'm not talking about me hanging around with children. These were adults. People that were 30 years my elder. And when I was silent, they suddenly started to show me how afraid they were. And that made it incredibly difficult for me to remain silent, because suddenly they started coming with all their problems. And so I often hide myself in my room. There's no other way of saying it. And I often lock my door simply to prevent people from talking to me. Because what I really want to do is I want to be silent unless I'm recording my content. Because that is when I feel good, when I'm here alone in my room and I do the things that I want to do. So instead of running around and talking to everybody, I started to talk with myself. So when I'm alone in my room and I start feeling restless, I think about what I feel. I try to understand what I feel like doing right now. And that is then showing itself in an image, in a song, in a recording such as this. And the only reason why I can make so much content and be so creative is because I remain silent most of the day and only use my voice to speak to the outside world, to the people who want to hear what I have to say. And so I share these kind of insights because I realize that most people have a real problem with this. A mother that is alone with her child, right, feels really anxious because nobody's there to talk to her, because she never learned to listen to herself. And most people, they never make that transition by themselves unless somebody thrusts it upon them. And so, I could say I invite you to practice silence, and to retreat once in a while into your own space. And when you do that, you will realize that your own space is incredibly messy. I mean, really messy. Not just a bit, not just a tad bit, Like, it's a fucking mess. And often when I talk to people, I realize how much anger they're pushing down, how much fear, how much anxiety, how much sadness. And when they talk to me, what they say is literally dripping with contempt, with anger, and with sadness and fear and all those emotions that they never allow themselves to feel, because as soon as they feel them, I don't know, they drink coffee, they eat a cake, they talk to other people, they watch a movie, they listen to music, or they start posting stuff, or they start writing messages. And so when you are silent, and maybe you sit down in front of a piece of paper, and you feel really bad, start drawing. Start filling a diary with all the things that you feel, and then read it, and then look at it, and then appreciate the gift of silence, and realize, whoa, this is how I feel? And, right, there's no need to share everything like I do. I share these things because I feel like I want to. And so I share what I want to share because that's what I feel drawn to share these ideas that I have, because I realize that these ideas to this society are a novelty. Everybody's standing around proclaiming at their heart's content what they feel or think, but in the end, these things are only words. And so words are turds, because as long as you stand around talking, you're actually not doing anything. You're not doing anything. So I can go to people and say, for the rest of the week, I don't want to take care of the dog. And then tomorrow I walk the dog again, because I feel bad for having said that. That just means my resolve was pretty shaky. And I was trapped in the expectations that other people might have on me, but also that they push onto me and that then I take responsibility for. But then I push away the responsibility I have for myself and for the way I feel. And so silence is a real challenge. And you may find that only if you actually start practicing it. Try it. Try saying nothing for a whole day. Sure, you're in school, how are you going to do that? It's going to be pretty hard, so take a Saturday. You can even tell people, tomorrow I will not talk. And they will laugh at you, they will make jokes about you, and they will try to get you to talk. They will literally try to get you to talk. But what I realize, if I'm talking all the time, all my energy is flowing out into small talk, into nonsense, into all those words that are turds, that are fluttering birds, and that are escaping me. It's basically my life's energy that I'm wasting on chit-chat. And therefore, what is silence? It's a way to connect with yourself, with your emotions. And this is what I find most people are afraid of. Their emotions. But what is there to be afraid of? They are there, and they will be there for the rest of your life unless you start working with them, looking at them, putting them into some kind of creative outlet. Right? And I find in the beginning it was much easier to write onto paper, but for me it's much easier now to write on the laptop, because then I can share it immediately without having to transfer it first from a written form to my laptop. And that's something that I find very true. Sure, I could write on paper and then post a picture. Haven't really thought about that. But I also like working on the laptop because I have a lot of experience with that. So it became easier. And the same goes for silence. When you practice silence, it will become easier. And like Gandhi said it, at one point, it felt even like a requirement, like something that he needed, like really needed, in order to come back to his place of peace, which is this inner calmness. But when you're talking all the time or busy texting, you are never really calm because you're always running away from yourself. And so if you want to pin yourself down and say, you know, this is me now, then silence is a great way of doing that. So, yeah, I mean, all I can say is this. What you do with it is your own responsibility. If you hear me say that and you think like, oh yeah, what does he know? Well, I know some things, and others I still have to learn. So I'm always open for a new experience. If I see somebody talking about something, you know, at least I give it a shot. I think about it. Is that what I need right now? And then I make a choice. Sometimes I push a choice away, but eventually, you know, I also want to stop resisting so much. Yeah, and often I feel when I talk to people, it makes me incredibly angry. Also because I realize that with most people, words are literally just turds. And so why would I talk to them if everything they say is just something that they say because they feel like it's the right thing to say? You know, I say what I want to say, not because I think it's the right thing to say. I say it because I feel like it needs to be heard, and because I have something to say. Because I also spend adequate amounts of time in silence. Yeah. And as soon as I spend time with people, I also often feel like I have to say something so that they can feel at ease. But then I feel myself getting more tired and more tired and more tired. And then I have less energy to do other things, like spending time with myself. And so, yeah, that is basically, to me, what silence is, a way to connect with yourself. And also a way to calm down and to ask some of the important questions, like what do I want, how do I feel, what do I really need, apart from other people, what do I need? And then to express that need once you know that you have this need, and then also to go through with it, right? Like, you know, maybe I don't want to celebrate my birthday. And then I say that and I celebrate it anyway. Well, tough, right? I mean, it's tough. But one person has to start at some point. And so that's what I had to give you today.